Megalobox Season 2 has been going strong since its first episode. The format of this season differs very strongly from the first, because you don't really know where the story is going. It goes from Joe, being the drug-infested wreck known as Nomad, to a beaten-up old Megalobox champion trying to confront his past. This season deals with a lot of heavy subject matter, much more than the first season did. The darkest moments previously were PTSD related to depression, and the pain of Yuri ripping off his gear. Those scenes were dark, but this season is unrelenting. Most episodes end with at least some dark aspect being focused on at some point, but it's not all dark. Sometimes it embraces melancholy. The first 4 episodes may be the best storytelling this series has done. It was so good that it makes the continuing story for the rest of the season look subpar by comparison. A group of immigrants are trying their best to live, and one of them, Chief, is entering a Megalobox tournament so they can buy land. His fights, his motivations, the lessons he imparts onto Joe, he's such a powerful character. They both struggle with opioids, and that ends up being a major plot point for the beginning of this story. Those that use drugs to run away, and to compensate for when their body starts to fail them. The symbolism of the hummingbird being the guiding light that will lead you back home is spread throughout. It's no contest the first 4 episodes of this season were amazing, but one issue this story has overall, including season 1 to some extent, is it struggles with its length. Usually modern anime struggle with doing too much, with adding filler and other unnecessary elements, but for Megalobox season 2 in particular, I actually think it struggles with being too short. I love how concise the story is, and what it portrays, but some aspects aren't given as much time to shine, especially the fight scenes and certain story beats don't last too long, but by the end it felt strange that Joe got over his drug addiction so soon. I was hoping it would be a constant struggle throughout the season, but after confronting his thoughts, he just gets over it. The scene where he finally recollects himself was powerful. I just wish it didn't end the conflict so soon. In terms of fights, I think Chief's fight was amazing and they gave it the amount of time it needed, but more recently, a fight that didn't get enough work done for it was Mac vs. Liu, which out of all the fights in season 2 wasn't as effective for me. Obviously, both seasons aren't actually about the fights themselves, shown famously, with season 1 ending without showing the resolution of the battle on screen. But one aspect that has kept the series in the dark for a lot of people is it doesn't have that one moment, the scene where souls clash. It's the one aspect of a story involving fights that can really draw outside attention. I also can't deny how much the quality of this already amazing story would go up if all the fights in the series went up in choreography and given attention. Usually having a concise story is positive, because no time is wasted on unnecessary elements. But if a story is too concise, it doesn't help add to the biggest moments of its story. Some of its intended heavy-hitting moments may not hit as hard. This was how I felt about Mac vs. Liu. Because the choreography felt average, it ended up being drawn out without that much of a payoff. Of course, the moment at the end, where Mac knocks out Liu, was cool, but that was one short moment of the entire conflict. This isn't to say the fight was bad though, it was good. The core of Megalobox's fights is about the characters' struggles, their minds. But if it had all the positives it has now, but they added in even more effective fighting than those moments, then those moments would hit the next level. Season 1 I didn't really have this issue. Each fight had very strong choreography. They lasted a while, and they were all unique. I think it's really just the second season that's been struggling with this issue. Aside from the fights at the beginning during Chief's arc, the fights haven't been as good as season 1. I did want to talk about Chief's death a bit more. That was one of the saddest moments I've seen in anime in a while. The fact that they gave him a death that's essentially him finally resting along with his family was so heartbreaking. After finally helping his people buy the land, he was allowed to pass on. I can only hope Joe ends up putting on his Megalobox gear at some point before season 2 ends, because you gotta give respect to my man. I think Chief will definitely come back into play soon though, since it seems Mac might be an immigrant as well. Going back to Joe's struggle with drugs for a moment, a good comparison for why I felt it didn't last as long as it should is with Joe going gearless. In the first season, Joe starts out with busted up gear, and for the first 4 episodes, this is a major struggle, but after he decides not to use any gear, it's a constant struggle throughout the entire first season. Every fight is about how he can leverage being gearless to his advantage, and the final confrontation at the end with Yuri involves this conflict. What is real megaloboxing? This theme was very important to this idea, but when this is compared to Joe's struggle with drugs, it kind of feels like wasted potential. Imagine if throughout the season, he would have moments where he's struggling from relapse. It could come into play like if Joe had to get back into the ring at some point, or if something happens and his mind fights against him. Though I liked what was done with it, I was left wanting more, which so far is a good way to describe season 2 thus far. I like what's here, but I feel like not enough plot threads were expanded upon when there was an opportunity to. What do you all think of season 2 so far? Are you enjoying it? What do you think it does right, and what can it improve on? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.